Oh, this week's Sedrat is Sedrat Beshalach. It's a special Shabbat, not only because it's Shabbat Shira, not only do we learn about the splitting of the sea and read Az Yashir, the song that Bnei Yisrael said in praise of Hashem, but we also, it's Tu B'Shvat, the day that we celebrate trees and agriculture, and all that Hashem does for us in way of providing all of our needs. It's a special Shabbat and a special Sedra, one filled with excitement, as the Jews have the sea split for them, the mun falls from the sky. It's a special Shabbat, one that I hope that you'll take advantage of by opening up your Chumash, reading through the Sedra, maybe taking a commentator or two, and really delving into the depths of the wisdom that this Sedra presents. As we look at the Sedra opens up with Bnei Yisrael leaving Egypt, and they're on their path. And the Parsha starts off with Hashem saying, really narrating the story, and saying that He didn't want to take Bnei Yisrael by way of the Plishtim, by way of the Philistines, afraid that Bnei Yisrael would see them, the Philistines would come out and attack them, and Bnei Yisrael would regret having left Egypt, saying, why do we have to have a war? We could have just stayed in Egypt and at least had our lives. It would have been slavery, but our lives would have been saved. In order to avoid the regret of leaving Egypt, Hashem takes Bnei Yisrael on a detour, a little farther of a route, but one that avoids having to wage war with the Plishtim. We see that Hashem was concerned somewhat with the idea of Bnei Yisrael regretting having left Egypt. As the story progresses, Bnei Yisrael comes to the Red Sea. And in front of them, they're faced with a challenge. The sea. They can't cross it. There's no bridge. So they have a big challenge in front of them. What should they do? Worse is they look behind them and the Egyptians had started chasing them. Now, why would the Egyptians, having just freed them, start giving chase to Bnei Yisrael? Hashem hardened Paro's heart and caused Paro, really took away his free choice, as we saw last week, and causes Paro to chase Bnei Yisrael. Paro had no choice in the matter. He was forced by God to chase Bnei Yisrael. So the whole episode that happened at the sea, with the sea splitting and the Egyptians trying to attack Bnei Yisrael, was truly orchestrated by Hashem Himself. Now, the really interesting thing, and this is where a problem develops, is that when Bnei Yisrael looks in front of them, and they see the sea, and they look behind them, and they see the Egyptians, what's their reaction? The reaction is they complain to Moshe, and they say, why did you have to take us out of Egypt? We would rather have been slaves than have us either drown in the sea, or be decimated by Paro's army that's coming up behind us. The exact problem that Hashem wanted to avoid by having them detour away from the Plishtim, of having them regret having left Egypt, Hashem Himself orchestrates later on by having Bnei Yisrael stuck between the sea and the Egyptians. How do we explain that? How do we understand that Hashem, on the one hand, wants them not to reach the situation where they regret having left Egypt, but at the same time, orchestrating a similar situation that clearly has Bnei Yisrael stating just that, their regret for having left Egypt? I think the answer could be explained as follows. The Plishtim were a new entity. Bnei Yisrael would have left Egypt and said, okay, we're done with our enemies, they've let us go. And all of a sudden the Plishtim come, and Bnei Yisrael is faced with a different enemy now. And they look at their lives, and their lives are just going to be enemy after enemy after enemy. The security of slavery, where you're just dealing with your enemy that you know, would seem a lot more tempting. But when it comes to the same enemy, with the Egyptians chasing them, Bnei Yisrael knows this enemy well. And Hashem has to demonstrate that this is going to be the last time you're ever going to face this enemy. And He orchestrates a whole situation where Bnei Yisrael, standing on the shores of the sea in safety, can look and watch their enemy drown as the sea comes crashing down upon them. It's the ultimate feeling of security for Bnei Yisrael, watching justice take place, watching as their enemy is completely decimated right in front of them. It's a lesson for all of us and for all time. It's where we see that no matter how bad situations could be for our nation, when we're faced with a sea in front of us and an army behind us and nowhere to go, we're completely surrounded, Hashem comes through, miraculously splits the sea, we're taken to safety, and we watch our enemy's destruction. It's a lesson for all time, a lesson that Hashem is there. We should dive into Hashem, pray to Hashem for our redemption, and hope to see it soon. Shabbat Shalom.